So this is one of the early scrapbooks in the museum's collection that documents the 150th anniversary commemorations here at Fort Ticonderoga. Letters from dignitaries that were invited to the event, press coverage of one of these important commemorations in the museum's history. New York, Las Vegas, Palo Alto, Yakima, Washington. Much closer to home, but still Buffalo, Schenectady, Oakland, California, Salt Lake City. It's big news all over the country. On May 10th of 1775, Ethan Allen, Benedict Arnold, and the Green Mountain Boys captured not only Fort Ticonderoga and its strategic location, as well as a stockpile of artillery, but also the imagination of generations of Americans. The almost bloodless capture of the fort, America's first victory, became mythic even before the Revolution was over, and has retained that status for nearly 250 years. While tourists had been coming to Fort Ticonderoga since George Washington's visit in 1783, the first documented commemoration was the centennial in 1875. A cloudy and foreboding morning cleared to welcome as many as 7,000 visitors, with a parade of brass bands, militia companies, and the Grand Army of the Republic, veterans of the recent American Civil War. Although, unfortunately, Ethan Allen's grandson was unable to make it in time, as his train was delayed. Colonel William E. Calkins of Ticonderoga spoke fiercely about the legacy of Fort Ticonderoga as the first intimation that crowns might crumble and kingdoms pass away. The 150th anniversary commemorations in 1925 were the first since the reconstruction of the fort had begun. It was a grand affair with marching bands, National Guard troops, the Society of Colonial Wars, and the Daughters of the American Revolution, as well as the American Legion, veterans of America's most recent conflict, the First World War. Museum co-founder Stephen Pell, who himself had just a few years earlier served in France, led the processions and affirmed that he viewed Ticonderoga not as an asset, but as a responsibility. The events culminated in the dedication of a plaque that still stands on the fort walls to this day. Among the thousands of spectators and performers were two trumpet players who had also performed at the 1875 centennial. New York Senator Mortimer Yale Ferris and the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont were among the guests, but President Calvin Coolidge decided to skip the festivities, despite his Vermont origins, resulting in the well-publicized ire of Stephen Pell. In 1939, Stephen Pell once again oversaw a commemoration of the attack, this time at the World's Fair in New York City, where May 10th was dubbed Fort Ti Day. In the 1950s, Fort Ticonderoga regularly celebrated Ethan Allen Days, which featured many of the events of previous commemorations, but this time with something a bit different: a reenactment. While not strictly accurate, this representation of the events of May 10, 1775 revealed a growing desire to interact with the past that was beginning to feel a bit more distant. In 1975, the bicentennial of the capture of Fort Ticonderoga came a mere 10 days after the fall of Saigon, and for over 40,000 visitors represented a small step on the path towards national renewal. Making headlines across the country, this commemoration featured 3 reenactments, including one at the 3 a.m. time of the original capture, performed by selected descendants of the original Green Mountain Boys. During the day, New York Governor Hugh L. Carey spoke to the gathered crowds that filled the parade ground of the fort, along with the British ambassador to the UN and the consul generals of Great Britain and France. The U.S. Army's Old Guard fifes and drums provided stirring martial music, as did the newly reformed Fort Ticonderoga fifes and drums. The crowds commemorated the Revolution, as well as generations of previous celebrations. This year, we reflect on the 250th anniversary of the capture of Fort Ticonderoga, gaining strength and perspective from the past and recalling the previous generations that have also done so. We invite you to experience the power, the pageantry, and the poignancy of Fort Ticonderoga's 250th anniversary commemorations beginning this May.